Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for today. Um, First note, we will be recording this webinar, so if you don't want to be on record, just please stay on mute and submit your questions through the chat window. Today's webinar is focused on SAP Commerce B2B offering that Portaltech is bringing to the market. And as part of this, we will be demoing a little bit about what our team has built, showing you what is possible within which timelines. So we will start with first start with a bit of an introduction for Portaltech Reply for those of you who are not maybe familiar with the company. Then we will proceed to a B2B demo, and we will have a separate agenda showing for the demo and what we will be showing in that part of our webinar today. After which we will move on to an indicative offering. So we will explain a little bit what is possible and what kind of delivery approach we would suggest for this implementation. And in the end, there will be a possibility for questions and answers, as well as we'll share our contact details, and we encourage you to connect with us on LinkedIn or whatever way you can. So first of all, thank you everyone for joining. Hope you'll find this really interesting and insightful. Let's start with an introduction of Portaltech Reply. So Portaltech Reply UK, we are a SAP Gold partner, and we're also SAP Commerce recognized expertise system integrator within UK, the only system integrator in UK that holds that level of recognition at this point in time. We have been working with SAP for over a decade on this solution, so we have a wealth of experience and a quite good standing in that field. In terms of our key specializations is, of course, customer experience. We tend to focus on large-scale and high-performance implementations on the basis of SAP Commerce, but we also could deliver CDC and marketing solutions as well. And we're actually currently looking into Qualtrics and other surrounding solutions in the SAP's customer experience suite. And of course, we provide strategy and roadmap consulting as well. So it's a kind of holistic view on the solution, on your strategy, and not just the tools, but also how to apply these tools in the real world is what we really pride ourselves on. Besides that, of course, two very important aspects is since we're focusing on high performance implementations, optimization tools is another really important aspect. Contextualization, personalization, think about A/B testing, and of course, digital touchpoints optimization. And underlying all of that is system engineering. So of course, a lot of attention to system integrations, which is the core of our business, performance tuning, and data migration ultimately. If we look at the wider scope, we are part of the Reply Group, which you might be aware of, but we are kind of a network of companies. It's very flat organizational structure, decentralized. Each company is specialized, narrowly specialized in a particular field, but jointly we can mix and match different companies to deliver about any kind of capability. And of course, the full network is providing us with substantial size. So we're over 8,000 employees worldwide, headquartered in UK, Germany, and Italy. So Europe tends to be our gravitational pull, if you like. But we also, as you can see, have branch outs in Northern America, South America, and Asia. Overall, we are present in about 50 markets. And at a group level, we are also a gold partner. Moving on to our B2B related implementations. So these are the three names that we have picked out of our portfolio. Some interesting names. So if you wanted to know a little bit more about these companies or what we did for them, you'll be able to get these slides after we publish the materials from this webinar today. you could have a read through, or if there's anything that got your attention already, please don't hesitate to post your questions at the end of the session. And we'll do our best to answer them. But yes, these are our kind of key B2B implementation reference clients, and that's why we picked up the topic of a B2B, which we believe is an up-and-coming topic in the market for SAP Commerce in particular, and that's why we've been running webinars earlier this summer, and now concluding with a demo and an offering today. So moving on further, beyond the B2B implementations, we have served a wide variety of clients. So you will see that we have served the travel sector recently in particular, but obviously right now they're facing certain challenges. Beyond that, you will notice that we have served a range of food and grocery companies. So you will see Coop, you'll see Spar, you'll see Iceland there on this mosaic, so to say, of a slide. And you will see traditional retailers such as Monsoon and Accessorize, Lavazza, and so on. There are even a couple of financial institutions there as well. So as you can see, a quite diverse set of companies. And one notable aspect is SAP SAP Commerce, excuse me, Travel Accelerator. This is an extension or an accelerator that we have developed for SAP, specific to the travel sector. And that's where quite a bit of focus had been, and also an accelerator that tends to be quite popular in the market. So there's quite a lot of demand for it that we see actually, even while even undergoing current troublesome times for the travel industry. So in case you have any questions, please post them in the chat at this point in time. Let's proceed to the B2B commerce demo at this point in time, and we will then revert to Q&A where we could go through all your questions and discuss. So today, as part of the demo, I would like to cover the following 6 points. So we will look at B2B SAP Commerce Accelerator features and what it adds in the back office and what kind of capabilities it adds for your business users. We will look at a quite important aspect of a B2B commerce is the organizational setup. So as many of you might be familiar, B2B commerce requires a greater depth of configuration in terms of organizational structure from the seller side, from the merchant side, as well as from the buyer side. So when two companies get involved, you need to be able to support complexities around approval processes and budget limitations that all have to be at some point approved if they breached and maintained and so on. So as part of it, we will also look a little bit into B2B user management, how it is handled in the back office. We'll look at a registration page that is also put up for a B2B user as part of that. Before proceeding to the customer specific pricing, so we will look at pricing, how it is displayed on the storefront, how it is configured in the backend, and what different options there are for configuration and displaying these prices. After that, we will move on to the placing of an order and reordering capabilities that are available within SAP Commerce, B2B Accelerator. And last, we will touch a little bit on assisted service module. And the reason we want to highlight that is because earlier in our webinars, we have mentioned the importance of establishing synergies between the direct sales channel and the online channel, and how these can be merged and how these can be working hand in hand. And so assisted service module is a capability that's available within SAP Commerce out of the box. And what it actually allows you is allows for the customer journey to start, let's say, with a sales rep and then be completed online. But also it could be that the journey had started online and then the client might be asking for some kind of special delivery terms or special discount or special pricing. And in this case, a sales rep could easily take over a basket that had been created by the customer. They could take it over in real time from the storefront, add additional pricing changes, additional terms and conditions, and help the customer check out. So if everyone's happy with this agenda, I would like to now move on to the demo. I will have to exit the full screen mode, so please excuse me for that. And let's first start with a little bit of an overview and introduction of how we set up the system. Excuse me, just 1 second. There we go. So this was our setup, and I'd like to talk you through it a little bit first, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So in our hierarchy, we have set up 3 companies. We are using Pret a Manger as our guinea pig, so to say, and we have 2 business units underneath that are part of the group. So this is particularly visible in this list of B2B customers that we have set up. All of this data, of course, dummy data. These are not real people. So just a good remark to make sure nobody's real emails are being disclosed here. These are all imaginary friends of ours. So there is obviously a group, Pret. And within this group, there are 2 subunits, Pret Services and Pret Goods. Now, important to note is that Pret Services seems to be buying much more from us, so they were attributed special pricing, and you will see this later in our demo. They were attributed a gold price list, which means their price is slightly discounted. And then we also have the Pret Goods, which has the default price list, which is our usual price list, where we do not, let's say, offer some additional discounts to the majority of our customer base. So if we were to now turn attention to the first point of B2B SAP Commerce Accelerator features, so let's just look at that. If we go to the back office, then this might be already familiar to some of you. This is the back office of SAP Commerce. So you have the dashboard, which tells you about some key parameters of the system, how it is performing. On the left-hand side, you will see all the different configuration settings. So I think what's important for us right now is, what I wanted to highlight is the B2B Commerce drop-down menu. So once you have B2B Commerce Accelerator enabled, you have this really handy menu, which allows you to set up and configure B2B specific functions. So you've got the B2B units. You'll see that, as I showed you previously, we have set up these 3 entities for our test entity Pret. So you will see that these entities are reflected here. You've got the B2B customer. So these are all our customers that we also see configured over here. They come up in this list. And of course, specifically for B2B, you've got the B2B cost centers. Again, you see the 2 main entities, which are cost centers. You don't see the holding unit, but you see these ones because holding unit is rarely a cost center. But these 2 have been configured as cost centers as well. So you start to see that a certain monthly budget had been set for them. So this is, again, very important aspect of cost control for a company. And so it would be important to be able to configure these thresholds for each and every customer that you have. And all, of course, as you can see, we could quickly access and we could see what this limit is, as well as if we wanted to drill down into it, we could see how this is set up, how you see the budgets, where the budget had been edited and so on. So we could drill this further down until we were able to manage this budget and set the amount that we wanted. So here you can see how quite easily and quickly you could find it in the system. Actually, cost centers, yeah, we talked about cost centers and assigned budgets. So then you also have dedicated section about budgets, which allows you to configure these budgets. So you could go through the cost center, but even quicker, you could access it here, where you could easily set up the budget. There you go, you have the field and you could easily amend that. Now, there are further items to be looked at. Excuse me. So user groups, reporting set, and so on. For sake of this demo, I would like to now proceed to the next topic, which is B2B organizational setup. So if we were to look at our B2B customers, right, we would find these guys here. But more importantly, what I would like to show you is the user drop down here. So you've got employees and you've got user groups and you've got customers. So if we were to click on a customer set, you will find that there are quite a few, there are some dummy users, but we will also find some of the Pred people. So William Hunter, as we have noticed, is at pred.com. We've got Mark Rivers. In particular, actually, these two gentlemen are the ones that we will use in our demo today, but we also got some of the more senior people like Linda Wolf and James Bell from Pred. So this is where you can see all of the customers that are registered on your system. As well, you can see that there are different user groups to which they can be assigned. So again, we can see Pred Services, Pred Goods, and Pred. One thing I want to show you in particular is Mark Rivers. So Mark Rivers has got an approver set up for him because Mark Rivers in our hierarchy, Mark Rivers is customer A. So customer A, so he needs an approver actually, Mark Rivers, because he doesn't have a specific approver. So what I've done is I've assigned Hannah Schmidt, who is part of Pred, the holding actually. I've assigned her as an approver for Mark. So if we were to look through Mark's profile, then we could easily find that Hannah had been set up as his approver. And I'll show you why this is important, is because when Mark places later an order that is above 5K, so we see here that there's been a budget set for 5K. When he places an order above 5K is actually when we need Hannah to approve this order, and we will see through her storefront account how she can do that easily in a storefront without even getting into the back office. So this is a little bit of B2B organizational setup, right? So and user management. So as you can see, you've got different views at it. So you got user groups, you got Pred Services, Pred Goods, Pred. For different customers, different people, you see that you can set them up with different permissions. So if we look at Mark Rivers, for example, and we look at permissions, then we see that Mark has very few permissions. But if we, for example, were to look at, let's just go back to our B2B customer. I think it's an easier list to look at. If we looked at, let's say, Hannah Schmidt, and we looked at her permissions, then we see that she has some budget exceeded and unlimited threshold permissions. So we can see that from this view, Hannah can be configured to have additional user permissions to approve budgets, to approve threshold, or place orders that are not limited by the budget set for the business unit. So this is basically a sort of a preview of what is possible. Of course, because it's many-to-many relationship, you can imagine that any kind of customer structure could be set up in the back office, and any kind of permissions could be applied to different customers and customer groups. So that's on a part of the organizational setup, B2B user management. So just as last part of B2B user management, I'd like to show you briefly that as a new customer, you can easily register. And when you were to, and if you were to register, let's just quickly say, I'll just register myself very quickly, mobile number, email address. Let's change that to my work email address, if it would pop up somewhere. There we go. Job title, let's say I'm a procurement manager, and we've got all the other items. Then we tick off the consents, and we register. When this is happening, a registration is actually sent to the back office, and in the back office, administrator would have to approve this. So if I were to refresh this window, the back office, I should see a request coming in for registration. Let's see, there we go. So I think today, here we go, 11:20, that's exactly, so the B2B registration. And if I'm the administrator of the system, I can easily go in, I could review this application, I could see that there are some attachments, and I could check this this registration, and I could approve it potentially. Now, we're not going to need my personal registration in the system, but it just gives you an idea of how this is done. And once, of course, the administrator approves this registration request, then an email is sent back to the person that registered, and then they get their credentials and then can log in as a customer, and they can start to see prices. So this is where I would like to take us next. And this is actually the next part of our demo, which is customer specific pricing. So what we would like to show is, let me just get rid of this assisted model for now. So this is where I would like to show you the storefront. So you can see there are different categories, and that you could go into these categories and you could review all the products that are available. However, some of you might notice that we're actually not seeing any pricing on a storefront. And the reason for that is because the pricing will be specific to your customer, right? So each customer will have some specific price list negotiated with the merchant. And so you don't necessarily want to show all of the prices to everyone, or some specific price to everyone. So the prices become visible once you log in. And so now I would like to go back a little bit to our diagram and show you again, remind you again that we've got Mark Rivers, who is part of Pret Goods, and we got William Hunter, who is part of the Pret Services. And so Mark will see slightly different price than William. And this is what I would like to show to you right now. So first of all, I would like to show how it looks like in the back office. So if we were to go to the price settings and prices and price rows, and I would be looking for something very specific. So I'll sort it by price, because I know that the price, I know roughly the price. And it is just over 25, 26, I think, pounds. Just a second. There we go. There we go. So what I would like us to pay attention are these 4 rows. So we've got, please disregard the staged and online. So these are the 2 product catalogs that are available. So by design, there's always a staged catalog which can be edited, and then there's online product catalog that's actually being published. And this is down to the system mechanics to make sure that you're not interrupting the online system. So these 2 synchronize once you have made all the necessary changes and staged, gets published online. But what's important here is to notice the B2B customer, a gold customer price group, and default B2B user group. So as you can see, there is a slight variance between the 2 groups. So this is how pricing is specific, customer specific pricing is set up in SAP Commerce. So you can create a customer group to which you can attach a price list. So if you are default, if you're let's just bring it back to our 2 guys, Mark and William. If you're Mark and you've been assigned a default price list, then you will see that the price that you will pay is at $25.19 for the Arla salted butter. But if you are, let's say, William, and you have been assigned a gold price list, then if you were to get to the storefront, you will see $25.10, so 9-cent discount compared to the default price list. So now let's see how that actually works that way. I've got already pre-populated names. So we've got Mark Rivers here. So we're logging in as Mark Rivers, and we just check Mark Rivers is a default customer. And on the home page, we'll see that Arla salted butter will cost Mark $25.19. So now let's sign out. Just go back to the storefront. Apologies for the URL fiddling, but that's, you know, it is a demo. And then we sign in. And instead of Mark, we say, well, it is William this time around. So if William logs in, then you can see that William gets a price of $25.10 as opposed to $25.19 for the same Arla salted butter. So this is how you can quite easily configure different prices for different user groups. So you would then use user groups to define groups of people that get specific pricing. User group could span a group of your customers that all satisfy certain criteria in order to be able to be offered this specific pricing, or you could use user groups even within the organization. So as in our example, different user groups have been set up for Pred services and Pred goods. So Pred services is a gold customer, while Pred goods is a default B2B customer, and therefore prices have been adjusted. So it's a very flexible, very kind of generic way of specifying these things that could be fitted around most business processes. All right, so now that we've seen the customer specific pricing, I would like to now move on to the order placement and checkout. So we are now logged in as William. So I would actually like to log out, and I would like to go back to Mark, because it's a nice chap, and I just like him, and things just, you know, run easier with him. So let's just go back to Mark. So Mark actually had been making some orders. So first of all, I want to show you a bit of my account. So you can see that Mark, when he logs in, he can do all of these things. He could update his payment details. He hasn't got any at the moment. It's all on account. For him, luckily, but he could update his personal details, right? And this, of course, could be extended to any kind of detail. He's got his password, he's got his quotes, he's got his order history, address book. So on the address book, of course, he's got his delivery address. And under order history, he's got all these different orders. By the way, there's that order that is over 5K, and we'll look at that a little bit later. But then other orders that he's been placing have been completed. And there's also replenishment orders, so we'll look into that as well. So he hasn't got any replenishment orders at the moment, but we'll look at how it's possible to place an order and what Mark can do with all of this. So let's just say that Mark is planning to cook some steak, and he was looking at this Angus Aberdeen beef. He goes into the product page and he looks at all of this, and he sees that he thinks that it's a good deal. Here is the description. There's some space for specifications. So obviously there's all the details, nutritional detail about this beef. You can go through different views and pictures of it. And let's say Mark is satisfied that he likes this beef, and he decides to add this to his cart. He chooses to continue shopping for now, but you know, not only he needs to make this beef, he also would like to serve it with some asparagus. So he types in asparagus, and two different asparagus products come up. You can see that there's a bit of autocorrect as well going on. So if there's a typo, then he still gets to his asparagus, luckily. And let's say, okay, he's happy with this asparagus. He'd like to add this to the basket, but also to bake that meat, he's going to need a bit of butter. So let's just look at some butter, and he finds that Arla salted butter that we were looking at, a little bit expensive if you think about it, $25.19. But you know, well, I guess it's a big package. So let's add that butter to the basket as well. So we've added all these ingredients, and now we've got a mini basket that we can see over here. But we could also, if we were to choose to check out, then we could see the basket in detail. Let's say he looked at all of this, he's happy with it. He thinks maybe he needs to update a little bit the numbers. So he does that. So we add 2 units of asparagus, and then he thinks, okay, I can cook dinner with this. Although, okay, this is a very small dinner for a B2B customer, but let's say it's a mini gala. It's a very, very small gala. So let's proceed and check out. Mark is verified with us, so we know Mark, we know his organization, so he has an option to register or check out on account, and Pred Goods of course comes up, and we know that Mark is part of the Pred Goods organization. So we quickly click through. We've got his shipping address that's already been added. He can choose different shipping methods. Just to note, so payments, of course, as most of you probably know, is a very flexible part of the commerce system. So all the different types of payments can be considered for the B2B. There's on account, credit cards, but basically any kind of payment methods that could be considered for a B2B scenario could be integrated there, as well if an ERP integration is required, it could also be supported. So we're happy with the shipping methods, and we're happy with the order. Let's say Mark decides to place this order, and then he gets a nice confirmation page that the order has been placed, and he will get a copy of his order details into his email. So order summary, shipping method, all the details, order confirmation that's available. And if he was to go to his order history, then he could see that this order had been created. Now, what is interesting is that not only this is possible, but also he could easily reorder this. So let's say Mark had another mini gala for which he needed a little bit of British Angus and asparagus and butter. He could easily just click button reorder. Basket would be populated, and all he needs to do is confirm and place order, and another order would be placed. So just for everybody's sake, let's say, ta-da, we've placed another order. If he wanted to then go back, and let's say he wanted to set up a replenishment, so as you can see, there's an order there. We could say copy order. We've got our cart. That brings us to the checkout. So you could make some adjustments here. And then let's say you wanted to check out if you were happy with all of this. This is fine. Shipping method is fine. And then you were to choose schedule replenishment. So this is where you would say, let's say Mark throws his party monthly. And so you could then create a replenishment, schedule a replenishment, so that this order would be scheduled on a monthly basis as we have chosen. And then if Mark were to go to replenishment orders, he could see that he has every first day of the month, this order would recur, and he would receive his produce a few days later. So this is again very B2B specific capability when it comes to order placement. So this is what we wanted to show you. Now there are a few other options. So there's import saved card. If you wanted to save a card, you could, if there's a standard card that you want to save, let's say in a CSV format, you could do that. If you wanted to have some kind of integration with Excel, then you could have a file, and if the rest of your reporting on procurement is in Excel, then a CSV format is something very easy that is exportable. And if you were to then modify it in Excel, adjust the numbers of your order, then if you were to create this CSV format file in Excel, you could easily re-upload it here in the system, and all you had to do was to click import, and the file would go up and the cart would be created and you could order it again. Another good feature is order forms. So let's say instead of, this is actually something I've been trying already. So if Mark didn't want to go through the product catalog, he knew that we had the asparagus, Angus beef, and the butter that he was looking for. He could just type in keyword search here, and the SAP Commerce would present him with a list of all of the asparagus, butter, and Angus beef that is available in the store. So this would make it really easy and quick for Mark to go through this selection. And let's say this time around he wants the extra fine asparagus, and he wants maybe 4 of those, and then he decided to try the grams butter instead of his usual Arla. And then he thinks that for this occasion, he probably would want to go for a few of these guys. Let's just set the number to 40. And that should bring us to 5K, over 5K order limit. And we remember from the setup, so let's just get to the checkout. Oh, we've got, yeah, you see we've got a discount going on there. So let's just bring it even further up. Let's say he decided to stock up on the butter. Still not enough. Let's see. Let's make this 50. He decided to really fill his cupboard. Yeah. Okay. Now we've got 5.5K worth of produce that Mark is ordering. As you remember in this setup, when I was showing you the way we've configured this demo, is that we've got a 5K per month limit. So Mark actually isn't authorized to submit this card, but we know that he needs it, and he's aligned this internally within his organization. So Mark is actually able to check out as per usual on account. Shipping method is fine. And let's just go through, and he's able to place this order. Now, what the interesting part that's happening is that we remember also, I showed you that we've set up Hannah as his approver. So in case Mark breaches his 5K limit, then Hannah needs to step in and she needs to approve his order. So let's just see what happens when we log in as Hannah. So if we are again on our storefront, now Hannah got an email from Mark saying, "Hi Hannah, I've placed an extra large order. This is for this special event that we are hosting with this and this client. We need some extra Angus, and we need some extra butter and extra fine asparagus. Could you please approve my order?" So Hannah receives that email. Well, actually, Hannah will receive an email from SAP Commerce already, but if Mark were to align with her, that's what he would say. And then Hannah can log into her storefront, and she would go into my account, and she would get this additional item here, which is called Account Manager Dashboard. And this is something that Mark doesn't get, because Mark does not approve budgets for others, so he doesn't have the so to say the superpowers. But when Hannah logs in, she sees that Mark has placed an order. So actually Mark has placed a couple of orders. Mark has placed an order together with me yesterday, and Mark has placed just another order with us today. So if Hannah were to log in, she could see that she's got a couple of options. She could accept the order or she could reject the order. She looks at the order, she can check how much it is, what's been ordered, where is it shipping to. And if Hannah is happy with it and it's in line with exactly that event, that special event they're hosting, then Hannah could just click on accept the order and say, yes, happy with that. Happy with that. Good luck with your event. Then she could accept this order, and then the order becomes created, so completed. So if we were again to sign out, and sign back in as Mark. Then Mark would actually see that his order had been approved. So Mark could go in again on the storefront, he could go to my account, I could go to order history, and here we go. So, right. So you see that there's an order. This is the order that I've placed together for Mark yesterday. So this one shows up as still pending approval. So this is pending approval from Hannah. And you can see that now that Hannah has accepted this order that we just placed today, the order has gone to the next stage of pending merchant approval. And so, you know, what is important is to show probably the flexibility of the approval flow. Here we go, B2B approval process. And so we've got all of these different permissions that are set up and budgets that are set up. And for each of them, you could configure, again, the customer groups. So again, everything kind of streams through the permissions through customer groups and permission sets. So you get a set of customers to whom you assign, who you assign into a customer group, and for them you get special permissions being granted within the system, and that way you can allow certain users to approve thresholds or exceed thresholds and so on. Range, you can set up the range. So this could be per month, so this could be quarterly, per year, per day, and so on. As well, I think in the latest SAP Commerce, so this is not the latest version, but in the latest version, there is a very visual representation of these approval flows. So if you know a little bit about Jira and Confluence, if you know a little bit about Jira and Confluence, and you know how well the visual approval flows work in that system, then you will know that similar capability had been implemented for SAP Commerce, where you can literally define a flow and you can define the actors that need to action these steps in that flow. All right, cool. So what we have seen is we have seen the customer-specific pricing, and we've looked at the placing and ordering and reordering on the storefront. So we have looked at order forms last. This was where we were searching for some asparagus and butter. Another thing that you could do, another capability that is also out of the box, is a quick order capability. So let's say if you just wanted to enter some SKUs, so let's just, let me just show you. So if we were in our order forms and we said we wanted some of these guys, and we could get the SKUs, or if you were to save these SKUs somewhere, then you could easily just copy paste here. And let's just say we also wanted some grams butter, copy, paste. You see that the system is automatically populating the product, and you could easily say, I want 5 of these, and I want 10 of those, and you could add them to cart. Oh, excuse me for my UI glitching a little bit, but there we go, add to cart. And check out and so on. So you see there are different ways to approach it, very quick ways. Of course, B2B, you know, there's no time to waste, and this process needs to be really fast. So there are all these different ways of placing an order, reordering from previous order, entering SKUs. You could have different variants as well specified. So if you're in the order forms, our order form is fairly straightforward. But if you had multi-dimensional products, then of course you could have different columns here for, let's say, over here you can see size 7, let's say, being specified. But if you had different flavors, for example, to the same butter, or if you had a yogurt and you had different flavors,
Then you could have different flavors also specified in the columns, and you could specify how many of which you wanted to purchase. So multi dimensional products are also supported in SAP Commerce. Right, so now that we've done quite a fair bit on ordering and reordering and looking at the time, I'd like to now turn our attention to the latest thing. So we got a card going on. Mark has created a card, and we're gonna look now at assisted service module and how this can be used by the sales rep to actually help Mark check out. So let's say Mark has put all these items in a cart, but he's unsure. He either encountered a technical problem or he's unsure about the price. So he calls his sales rep and he says, listen, I seem to have some kind of issue on the storefront. It doesn't seem like the 41.29 for grams butter is the right price, or maybe, I'd like to have a bit of a discount. So in that case, we're going to look at agents. So let's say the sales rep is our agent, and he says, okay, Mark, no worries, I can have a look into that for you. So he logs in. Excuse me, refresh that. Okay. So he logs in through the storefront again as a sales agent. And what he immediately actually gets Mark's card there. So we know that Mark is logged in, and actually Mark is the only session right now other than the agent. So automatically this is populated. So the sales rep could go into Customer 360 view. He could see what Mark had been purchasing. What's his profile, what has been his activity. He can see that Mark has been buying all this stuff from them, and Mark is a very good customer. So the sales rep thinks, okay, it's probably worth working with Mark and giving him some kind of additional discount. So this is where the sales rep can actually take over this card, and he could apply additional pricing, or he could edit this card. He could change numbers. He could apply a special promotion to this card, which would allow Mark to check out. And once all of the negotiation has been done, then he could help Mark check out. So that's the SM module. What also is important, I guess, and worth noting, and this is probably the last thing, is that as you can see under my account, when Mark logs in, he's got his quotes. So there is also, it isn't part of this demo officially, but there is also a quote negotiation capability available out of the box with SAP Commerce. And that is very important because Mark can log in on the storefront, select a basket, put some products into his basket, and then he could request a quote from his sales representative. So he could send his basket to his sales rep and say, hey, Jim, these are the things that I need. I would like to place an order. However, what's the best offer that you could make for me? And Jim could log in again through the storefront. He could review this request for a quote, and he could say, well, considering the size of this quote and the numbers, and considering the customer history that we have, I could offer you discount on these items. And he could send it back to Mark. And if Mark were happy, he could accept this quote, or he could further continue to negotiate. And in this cycle, they would eventually arrive to a plausible agreement on the total price on this basket. So I hope I've given you a good overview of B2B commerce supported by SAP Commerce. Now, one important thing is that I want to mention right now is that everything that I've shown to you today, the storefront and the back office, all of that had been delivered by a very small team. I believe it was only 2 developers that worked on this for just 2 weeks. So everything that we have seen today can be enabled on an SAP Commerce storefront within 2 weeks by 2 developers. Obviously, there is plenty of opportunity to extend this horizon, extend capability, and extend these features and make them more seamless. So, of course, this was a demo today, but hopefully it shows you the extent of flexibility and capability that it allows for. So let's now go into the Portaltech commerce offering. So we kind of sat down and we started to think, okay, if this is what we can do in 2 weeks, then what would a full implementation look like? And this is where we kind of arrived to the offering. So we believe that given the current state of SAP Commerce and the B2B commerce accelerator, we could now deliver a project on a timeline of roughly 5 months. We estimate about a month for discovery. We estimate about 3 months for an MVP implementation, largely based on the out-of-the-box capabilities, of course, and roughly 1 month to deliver. And that should bring us to the budget in the range of 400 to 600K for an end-to-end B2B commerce implementation based on SAP Commerce. Of course, MVP might not be enough for a large number of clients. So then we would suggest that we would go into a 2 months implementation iterations that would elaborate on this solution. And then, of course, we would apply agile methodologies to prioritize the backlog and prioritize the features that are required by each of our clients. All of this, of course, supported by our reply delivery model. So this is kind of scaled agile model that we have developed in-house. If anybody is interested in the details of it, please don't hesitate to reach out. I think for the sake of this session, we'll be wrapping up shortly for questions and answers, but the main idea about it is that it's a combination of traditional project management techniques as well as agile, but keeping agile core and the heart of our delivery methodology, and building on continuous integration, continuous delivery, CI/CD pipeline, while also creating good preparation and demand management on the front side of the things, and keeping release management quite tight and making sure releases are stable, and overarching, of course, program governance that we overlay on top to make sure that we work closely with the stakeholders from every angle to assure secure and fast delivery of our solutions. So this is something I wanted to touch on as well briefly. Now I would like to move on to questions and answers. So please don't hesitate, unmute yourself if you would like to, or if you would like to post your question in the chat, then that's also more than welcome. And we begin to hear from you now. Just a second, I seem to have lost the chat window. I'm just trying to bring it back. There we go, right. Okay. So how realistic is the 4 months timeline? Well, I think the 4 months, 4 months, probably you're referring to the 4 months of discovery and implementation. And yeah, sorry. 4 months implementation and discovery. I think that's that has to come with the caveats that it is predominantly based on the out-of-the-box capability. Really fast. A lot of capability is already there. So if you were following the latest release update on SAP Commerce Cloud, SAP had been heavily investing in APIs, in versatility and extensibility of the solution. So there is really a lot already there, and SAP Commerce, I think, is not quite what it used to be, where you would kind of get like a box of Lego that you still need to be piecing together. It's becoming more and more of a modular solution, but also ready-to-go solution that still requires some configuration and some tailoring. and tightening in some places, but it is much more of ready-to-go solution today than it was before. Right, we got a next question. Yes, is the SAP B2B Accelerator presented headless ready? Yes, so B2B Accelerator, as well as there is some storefront functionality. Largely, it is the business model, it is the data model, and it is the extensions that are available in the backend. And because the latest versions of SAP Commerce come with a really extensive and flexible API capability that allows you to expose various functionalities of the system as an API or as a service, then yes, it is therefore by default, by design, available in headless mode, and you could use any kind of CMS solution or any kind of multi-channel strategy to expose this B2B capability to whatever channels you're working with, be that visual channels or be that machine-to-machine ordering and so on. So in short, yes, it is. Right, one question. How is the storefront that you demoed compatible with Spartacus, the new commerce storefront? Okay, to the best of my knowledge, and I might have to confirm this, but this is still a B2B accelerator storefront. However, as I mentioned before, SAP is working very hard on making this a very modular solution. And also, as I mentioned, the B2B accelerator is largely a data model and a set of functional and capability extensions within the system. So enabling it to work with Spartacus should not be a big feat, because Spartacus is also microservices oriented, and the architecture of SAP Commerce solution is also moving in the microservices oriented direction. So there shouldn't be any issues integrating the two. All right, guys. For now, I don't see any more questions coming through. So yeah, there's one more. Is there any limitation to the number of cost centers? No, absolutely not. So there isn't any limitation to the number of customers you can have or to the number of cost centers that you could nest beneath these beneath your customers. So if you think about it, the hierarchy sort of breaks up from a customer at the top and under the customer, like a Christmas tree kind of cascading down, you could have different cost centers, and you can have any kind of granularity of cost centers. Also, cost centers can collapse one into another. So let's say if Pred Goods was an organization that we wanted to break up even further out, then we could create additional cost centers beneath Pred Goods that could then consolidate into Pred Goods. So no, there isn't any kind of limitation on the number of cost centers or number of customers or how they are aligned, how their organizational structure is set up, no matter how complex it is. It could also all be reflected in SAP Commerce fairly quick, as well as you hopefully have seen from the back office. All right, time for one last question before we wrap up. Just giving it a moment. All right, guys, let's wrap up. Thank you very much. You've been a very good audience today, and it's been a pleasure having you here. I hope you've enjoyed this demo and enjoyed listening to us. So just to wrap up, please don't hesitate to connect with us. Materials from this webinar will be available in a couple of days. The video recording, as well as the deck will be available on LinkedIn. So please watch that space, watch the event that we have set up on LinkedIn, as well as our homepage, where we will publish links to these materials. Please don't hesitate to look at them. If there are any questions, if there are any particular topics that you're working on today within your organization that you want any kind of advice or consultancy, second opinion, and so on, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to hear from you. And I would like to now say thank you and goodbye, and hopefully we'll see you all on one of our future webinars. Thank you very much. All the best. Have a good day.